I did a gig, Red Deer, Alberta. What people do there is slaughter pigs for a living. I did a one-nighter gig there. The microphone hung upside down from the ceiling like those old boxing matches. It didn't even have a stand. There was a girl on in front of me who was on for 3 minutes, left in tears. I forget her name, I never saw her. I walk out on stage, dead silence after they introduced me. Dead silence. Out of the silence, the guy puts up his hands. He has hooks for hands, but he can move them. And all you hear is, "Hey man, look!" Click, click, click. And I look at him and I go, "That's really attractive, sir. Must come in handy when you're eating lobster." Place dies laughing. Then they booed me off the stage. That's my story.
To try and make us fumble the questions. So cool, so cool. Kirk Hammett, the lead guitarist, is like, I did a gig, radio. Oh, December, by the way, do you allow guns on your video? Sorry. Quarantine life. I did a gig, December 29th, 1999, I was in radio. I was working at an alternative rock station in Daytona. We load up a party bus with a bunch of listeners, cool people, and my program director. We travel all the way to St. Pete, Florida, to go to the Suncoast Dome, which is now Tropicana Field, where the Tampa Bay Rays play. We're doing a big old concert, 4 bands. Creed, Kid Rock, I know, the antithesis right there. Seven Dust, very cool, and Metallica. Metallica, I'll drink to that. We get off the bus, they go, media, follow us. You know we're doing backstage interviews with Metallica. You have your equipment, right? We're like, no, we don't. No one said the label, no emails, no calls. What are you talking about? We're like, me and my program director, who liked to drink sometimes to excess, but thank God not that night, he was already pissed off. And he's like, dude, we're gonna blow this chance with Metallica. I go, hang on. So I run into a radio guy in Tampa that I knew who still worked there at the time. He gave me a recorder to do the interview. So as we're all in line waiting to get to our turn, like a smorgasbord line, waiting to go into the room, I see a kind of a small guy going person to person, greeting, and saying whatever. As he gets closer, I'm like, you look familiar. It's Jason Newsted, the bassist for Metallica, wearing Doc Martens. You know, they only come in full sizes. They don't come in half sizes. And I'm like, on stage, he looks like 6'2", and with his bass, but he was like 5'7" at the most. I turn to my boss. I'm like, he's got 5'6" or 5'7". I'm like, you are knee high to a grasshopper. You are incorrigible, Jason Newsted. I don't know why I turned into a plantation owner. But, so he was very nice. We get in there, we're interviewing Jason. My boss says, you know Metallica, you do the interview. So we're doing straightforward interview, having a great time. James Hetfield, the lead singer, is walking behind Jason with his white t-shirt, white boxer shorts, underwear, and making goofy faces at us to try and make us fumble the questions. It was so cool, so cool. Kirk Hammett, the lead guitarist, is like hiding behind a curtain, like just doing that. Lars Ulrich, the drummer, feeding his face on this 50, 60 foot long craft services table, which had everything under the sun to eat. He's talking with Randy Macho Man Savage, God rest his soul. It was just a crazy night. So doing a straight up interview, and finally I go, Jason, there's a question I have to ask you. I'm dying to ask you all night. When is Metallica gonna stop with the bubblegum rock and start bringing the hard stuff? And he starts to smile, and I look at my boss. My boss is like, I can't believe you just ruined this. And Newsted couldn't be cooler. I forgot exactly what he said, but he was just like, oh man, I know, right? We gotta start, beefing it up and get faster and harder, man. Like, enough with these ballads. And it was just so cool. Hetfield afterwards signed a pick guard for one of our DJs. The people couldn't be cooler, and Tony Gaud can't be cooler, because I want to thank you for letting me do I Did a Gig. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you.
They love my black powder gun joke. They love my gun jokes. I did a gig one time I got booked for a show in Inglewood, Florida. At the time, I thought Inglewood was like Venice, rich beach people. Turned out to be bitch people. Yeah, I thought it was rich beach people. Turns out Inglewood is where Midwest rednecks go to retire. Had no idea. So I came there to do 30 minutes, and after my first 3 jokes that kill, more often than not, got crickets. Just died a horrible death up there, dead silence. I started to become unhinged for the first time. I didn't know how to react. For the first time, I was getting paid decently for a gig, and I abandoned all professionality. Became a little unhinged and took it personal. Then abandoned some of my set and immediately went into jokes I knew they wouldn't like. This crowd was very old, very white, and very Republican. So I immediately went into my Jesus wasn't white jokes. That didn't go over too well. Then after that, I ended up having to tell a guy that he should probably read more books. And then immediately after that, I went into my affinity for black girls and Arab women jokes, which I knew they wouldn't like, and they didn't. And I got booed for the first time, and it was on purpose. In retrospect, I shouldn't have done that. I got paid decently to do a job, and instead I just pissed everybody off. I got paid to piss everybody off for about half my set. They love my black powder gun joke. They love my gun jokes. That was about it. It's brutal.
I had a gig where I was gigging in Ocala, and I met the owner to get the key to the comedy condo. This is the first time I was staying at a comedy condo. And what that is a place where they put up all the comics rather than having to stay at a hotel. He told me I was going to be staying with the MC, who was a nice guy from Miami, and not to worry. So I'm like, okay. So I get there and I knock on the door, and I hear this real feminine voice from behind the door telling me they were on their way. I'm on my way. And I thought, oh my gosh, I thought he was a guy. It was probably got a chick in there. Great. The door opens, and it is a 6'2" man dressed like a woman, cross-dresser, completely with wig, makeup, heels, hose, the whole 9. Fortunately, I do theater, so it really didn't throw me, but I told the manager later, by the way, little heads up. That's all I'm saying. Would have been nice to know. Now, another story I have was this woman that was in the audience, and at the beginning, sometimes I try to get the feel for the audience and talk to them a little bit if I can sense they're not really with me just yet. And this one woman kept yelling out answers to questions I wasn't asking. And she very quickly went from being really happy and having a great time to just pissed, completely pissed, to the point that she and her other drunk boyfriend started arguing with each other and then left the club. And I love this. I go up to the owner at the end of it, and I just kind of said, yeah, I don't know what happened there. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to drive him out. And she goes, oh, nobody cares. She showed up drunk.
I did a gig one time in West Phoenix. This is when I was first starting out. And it's like, I think it paid like $35. And it was at this little shack kind of a place, I guess what you would call a honky-tonk. But it was mostly like gang members, Crips, Bloods, MS-13, maybe early Al-Qaeda members, I don't know. But it was rough. I walk in, there's people kind of dancing, slow dancing on the dance floor where the stage was supposed to be. And then there's the obligatory, the DJ's like, all right, everybody, get off the dance floor. We're going to start some comedy now. And I was opening up for a guy called, and I swear to you, this was his deal. He billed himself as the hypnotist from hell. And I believe that's because his last name was Berkowitz, which I think was the son of Sam Killer. So he kind of tied that in or whatever. Anyway, they're all there to see him. We want to get hypnotized or whatever. And I had 15 minutes to do, so I went up on stage and I'm like, well, where's the mic stand and where's the mic? And the DJ says, oh, you're going to use my mic. And it had a 4-foot cord on there, so I bring the mic over the DJ booth so it's horizontal with the ground. I'm holding it sideways because I don't have any room to move, and do my shtick. And you know, and all these gang guys, you know, like, Cholos, hey man, you make fun of Jose or whatever. And I kind of make fun of Jose, and he's huge, and they're like, oh, you know, like they're gonna kill me. I'm checking my watch. Okay, I got the stopwatch going. And like, you know, so I make it through the 15 minutes. I needed the $35, and the guy kind of pulls me aside and says, you know, Berkowitz is supposed to, hypnotist from hell is supposed to pay you. I'm like, I can't hang around. I got to get out of here. I'm dead. You got to give me the money. No, we pay him and he pays you. No. I got to have it now. I got to get out of here. He goes, all right, I might lose my job over this. Like, I care. So he gives me the money, and I'm watching a little bit of Berkowitz on stage, and everyone's drunk by this time, so it doesn't matter. You could be the worst hypnotist on the face of the planet, and you're going to be able to put people under because they're almost passed out anyway from all the tequila shots they're doing or whatever. You know, you're passing out. You know, you're wetting your pants. You're throwing up. You could just be like the best or whatever. So I run out, and I'm going to my car, piece of crap car, and I kind of bump into, by mistake, a lowrider that was out there. I start setting off the alarm on the thing, and that's when I thought, I'm dead, I'm gone. But for some reason, no one came out, and I guess it's because all of the guys were hypnotized or something. I have no idea, but I got in my car, took off, looked in the rearview mirror, and I thought I was going to see a bunch of guys come out and go, what the hell? Nothing. So I got out of there with my life, and that was my gig, my hell gig, with the hypnotist from hell.
Okay, viewers, I did a gig once, a stand-up comedy gig where my agent sent me to Claremont, that's the city, Claremont, Florida. When I walked up to the venue before, there was a giant poster that said, now playing tonight, Molly Hatchet. Do you remember Molly Hatchet, the band from the 1970s? So I opened for Molly Hatchet, and I remember somebody saying, yeah, I heard she's pretty funny. Not knowing that Molly Hatchet was a band. Thinking that Molly Hatchet was a female comic. So, who are you working with? Oh, well, I'm working with Molly. I'm opening for Molly. So, yes. So I did a gig where I opened for Molly Hatchet. Who was on the gig? Dale Jones. If you know, Dale Jones is still on tour. Do you know Dale?
Yeah, he's on LA.
Dale is funny, but Dale and I did a gig. You know, I opened for Dale and Molly. A good show. I wish I had more to tell about that. I'm just proud that I've still got friends in the industry. Gig at the Redneck Bar. In other words, all of my gigs.
Remember that one?
Pinocchio's Pizza. I did a gig. My same agent that sent me to Molly Hatchet sent me to Punta Gorda, Florida to play a pizza parlor in a strip mall. And I worked with Tony Gaud and Lou Angel Wolf. And the three of us were awesome.
Yeah.
It was a good gig. Lou and Tony are still at comedy. Lou's very funny. I'm just very proud to say I did that gig. I think I opened.
Yeah.
I still remember the shirt that I wore, strangely enough. This is my Pinocchio's Pizza gig shirt.
Okay, so I did a gig one time in Winter Haven, Florida, and that, for those of you that aren't from Florida, that's a real redneck area. And it was in a saloon, bar thing, and I walked in there, I was featuring, and there was 7 guys at the bar. There was no music, the AC wasn't working, and all the guys at the bar were just texting or on Facebook on their phone. And I thought, oh my God, I have got to make 7 men in this hot bar laugh. And I was pretty nervous. And the show was supposed to start at 8, by 9 we hadn't started yet, which I was almost backed out of it because I thought, how am I going to do this? But luckily more people started coming in, and there was girls and different ages, so I started to feel better. And then I happened to ask, well, who's the host? And the headliner said, I don't think there is a host. And I'm like, oh, okay, so I guess I'll host and feature, which I did. And that wasn't really a problem. But when I went to the stage was like, I don't know, small. And then right on half of the stage, on that wall, there was a head mount of this animal that was obviously dead. It was huge, and it took up like half of the stage. That just tells you how big the stage was and the animal. And on the other half was the soundboard. Okay, so there's like this sound system, so I had like this much space to do stand up. And they finally told me to start the show. The microphone didn't work, and I'm like, great, I'm in a redneck bar, only Hispanic person, and the microphone doesn't work, which of course microphone gives you power. But at any rate, they told me, I said I'd wait, and then somebody came up on the stage with me to kind of work the little soundboard to get it working. It didn't work. Some guy said, well, I gotta go to my house and get my other microphone. So but they didn't want to wait, so I was already up there, and the owner said, just start. So I just started talking like loudly without a microphone, and then the guy got there with the microphone. They made me stop. They didn't want to wait. Made me stop. I stopped. I came back on the stage with me, fixed the little sound, whatever, got it to work, and then I continued with the microphone. And it ended up being an awesome gig. They loved me. They bought me shots all night long, and it just had a happy ending. So that's my gig. I'm in the area.
Everybody, I did a gig at a hotel here in Florida. The name will be undisclosed. It was a corporate gig, about 1,000 people. I walk in, the lighting is terrible, the stage is terrible. I can't see the audience, they can't see me. And it just went downhill from there. I remember I focused on this one individual because I could only see his bright Hawaiian shirt. Oddly enough, I finished the gig and sweat is just coming off my brow. You've all experienced it when things are just not going right. So I finished my set. I walk backstage. I hide behind the set that they had designed for the convention that was going on. And I'm just hiding there, shaking, going, what in the hell just happened? And this woman comes up. She comes behind. She finds me. She goes, "You were really funny. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much." And I thought, well, one person. But it was not to be after that, because I got a phone call from the booker, and she said right away, what the hell happened? Apparently the DJ had called her and said the gig did not go well, it was awful, and they hated me. So I couldn't explain it. It just was one of those nights where things were just not working. So I go to leave through the back way of the hotel, and the maitre d' comes up and says, "You can't leave. The CEO of the company is really angry, and he's trying to find you, so we need to take you out through security." So I had to wait in the back with the maitre d' and security and wait for the company to leave the building before they could escort me out to my car. That gig to this day still haunts me. I learned from it, but it haunts the hell out of me.
So I remember one of my first comedy gigs. I did this show, and the show was cool. The audience was cool. It was at a Japanese restaurant, but the booker had a hotel that he booked us at, and I didn't think anything of it. So when I pulled up to this hotel, I noticed it wasn't a hotel, it was a motel. And the reason I knew that is because I happened to look in one of the windows, and I saw pictures on the wall of the people who were staying in the motel. And I'm like, what's going on here? And it was just what I thought. It was one of the worst motels I ever stayed in. It was terrible. It had a smell, but not a smell so bad that you want to leave. And I didn't have any money at the time, so I had to stay there. But I didn't even sleep on the bed. I like slept in the chair. That's what I did. Like the hotel room didn't even have bed bugs, because I don't even think bed bugs would have even like came to that hotel and be like, you know what, this is a little bit too much for us. We're not even gonna stay here. So that was a crazy gig that I had. Terrible hotels. If you're trying to be a comedian, you're gonna go through those things. That's what it is.
Okay, so I did a gig where it was a private gig to this retirement ceremony for this woman. It was her family and friends, and what they told us was that they wanted a couple comedians and that there was going to be a dinner, and they were hoping that we wouldn't go too and she had, I'm pretty sure it was like the head of her church or something, and her family and his family or whatever up front, and he was the big guy behind the curtain telling them whether to laugh or not. It seemed like a lot of people were pretty hangry, and we couldn't do anything about it. But yeah, it was a pretty rough night. Everyone was super nice after we sat down. And I guess that's the thing about private gigs. You really do the best you can to give people a sense of what they might see in your comedy routine, especially through video and everything. But at the end of the day, the comedy is subjective, and sometimes they just don't want to hear about anything you want to say. So there you go. My name's Natasha.
The DJ brought me up. The DJ brought me up to an empty room. The bartenders. I did a gig, and nobody showed up. Actually, that would happen more than once. But on this particular occasion, this is back when I was featuring for these bookers that used to do these string of one-nighters. And this is in Florida. And I was featuring, and that particular night, that run, they had like a string of runs. You do just one-nighters, like three or four one-nighters in a run, sometimes 5. They'd have like some. It was pretty steady work when the gig wasn't falling out, when there wasn't a fallout, like it got canceled for some reason. But this particular night, this particular run had 2 shows in one night, 2 different locations. So you'd start at one place, and then you'd go to the second show once you complete that. So I was the feature, so I'd come in, and I was supposed to do my set, and then I'd go to the second show. And then the headliner would be following behind me as soon as they were done. Same thing. We show up, and headliner's not even there yet. Nobody is there except for the staff. That was it. Staff, the bartender, the cook, the door guy, and the booker. And nobody was there. But I still had to do my set, a 30-minute set in front of nobody, or else I wasn't going to get paid. And I still had to do the second show. So I still had to go to another show by the same booker. So I literally got up there and did like a half an hour, cordless mic, stand up there. The DJ brought me up. The DJ brought me up to an empty room. The bartender's just standing there behind the bar. In the middle of my set, 2 couples stroll in, go straight to the bar. I follow them to the bar. I do a shot with them, hang out for about 5 minutes. I go back on the stage, get back into my set. They leave before I'm even done. They come in, have a drink, and then they leave. So nobody was there when I started. Nobody was there when I left. The cook is standing in the door of the kitchen, just leaning against the doorway, like, really? I really have to be here for this? So I didn't even see the headliner. I was one of the gigs. That was one of the road gigs when I was featuring for the string of one-nighters on the Florida circuit back in circa 2000, 2001, 2002 maybe.
The best ever!
Same thing I was in Manhattan with the same band right in Midtown Manhattan, and this was a heavy metal club, so I opened with some horrible, insane, I was face fucking a little retarded boy or something, and he kept saying, whoa, 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 whoa. So I put my dick up his mouth so I could understand me, and he said, don't do that anymore, it hurts, Daddy. And so they didn't like that either. They cut the lights and the sound off on me. That damn thing. And come to find out, this was not really a heavy metal club. It was a make-believe. These yuppies from Long Island would come in on a Friday or Saturday night and play heavy metal. You know, play like they're and but they couldn't take it, so they shut off the sound and the lights for Carnival Cruise Lines.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And there were 77 comics. We each went in all day long, did two minutes, and then they called the 10 one of their favorites back for that night, and I was one of them. And when they got to me that night, not only did I win that fucking contest, I mean I stomped on it. I got a standing ovation and a curtain call, and people screaming, just and the whole. It was probably 250, 300 people. And this one fucking judge, he had something to do with the club up there. He didn't like me to begin with, but when it was all over with, he got up and said, well, I don't know about the rest of you, but I like him. They just sat down and gave me a standing ovation. Yeah, I guess they kind of liked me, you stupid prick. But anyhow, it was 4 years before I got out on Carnival Cruise Line.
I did a gig one time, and you know, these guys booked me at this show. I didn't know what I was getting into. I didn't know what it was going to be like, and I show up there, and it's this restaurant, and there's like tables of families and like little kids eating there and stuff. So before the show, I go up to the booker. I'm like, hey, I guess this is going to be kind of a clean set for the night, huh? He's like, no, man, just do whatever you want. I'm like, no, seriously, there's like a table right in front of like a family with like a little boy and a little girl. He's like, hey man, do your thing. And when someone says something like that to me, it's like lighting gas, you know? You don't want to say something like that to me. So, you know, I'm like, all right, I'll do my thing. So I start off, you know, a little slow, some, you know, blowjob, anal material. And then I get into the pedophile stuff. Right as I get into the pedophile stuff, he likes me. So I'm like, all right, I got 1 minute left. Literally claps me off the stage right then, like in the middle of a joke. I was like, all right, well, you said I could do anything.
One is subscribe. Another one is like, comment, hit notification. And all of these words will help us grow as a channel. Back to our program.